Europe simply showed a few important information on how XRP holders could be capable of getting extraordinarily wealthy in 2025, however handiest if you take gain of the stunning situation that is going to be offered closer to us, which we are going to be masking in the latest video. First, though, I do want to talk about the economy due to the fact there are such a lot of tremendously exciting developments that are occurring. Number one, I'm starting to believe very strongly that we're in a large AI bubble. I'm going to provide an explanation for why that is, and I'm going to explain why you can still make a number of money in AI and cryptocurrency. However, why you need to be intending with warning closer to the cease of this year. You can see that US existing domestic income has dropped notably in 2024 to simply 4 million, the bottom in view at 1,995. To position this into perspective, the 1,995 US had 70 million fewer human beings. Yet despite this, whilst we look at the chart, we will see that it is exactly at the same numbers, and for the duration of this time in 1,995, domestic sales have been starting to genuinely skyrocket. And so this tells a, without a doubt, exciting tale. House affordability in the United States is getting worse and worse and worse, and much less humans are genuinely capable of selling their houses, and less people are in a position to buy their houses. And this genuinely suggests the power of an economic system at any given point in time. You also can see that there was a significant dip from 2020 to 2024. During Biden's entire term, the housing income was simply losing appreciably every single year. And now we've gotten to in which we are these days in 2025. That is quite literally 30 years inside the beyond, right? That is pretty insane when you clearly do break it down. But this also is in reality vital for other markets as well, because clients' shopping power and the quantity of profits that they make relative to the economic system and the dimensions of the economic system is likewise honestly important. If we are in a kingdom in which corporations are creating wealth quit fist, while the average individuals such as you and me aren't capable of even manage to pay for day-to-day life, it's an extreme hassle. And generally instances like this are met with a ton of civil unrest and a restructuring of the device, because human beings are beginning to realize the system does no longer advantage them, it simply benefits the few on the pinnacle. And so I do assume that there is going to be an explosive 202-62027, which we can be covering in state-of-the-art video. But first, I need to talk about what the answer is. I recognize quite a few human beings on my channel, especially with the recent coverage of the Federal Reserve, have talked about abolishing the Fed, and that is something that I definitely trust. I assume abolishing the Fed would be a tremendous leap forward, because when you virtually break it down, the Federal Reserve is chargeable for manipulating the economy and making matters both cheap or unaffordable. And just because they have made matters low cost at one point in time, like in the 2000s, after which they made matters unaffordable at a short time, like proper now, does not imply that we need to accept as true with them more inside the future. I suggest, yeah, they have accomplished matters, right, maybe much less than 20% at the time, but nonetheless, they are devaluing our foreign money. They are permitting the richest human beings in the international to emerge as richer, and they're making it more hard for everyday people to simply earn a sincere dwelling and be capable of have the funds for their personal home. And to me, that could be a very concerning aspect. The problem is if the standard of living is not far enough, up only has to be so high that people aren't able to afford it to use. So allow us to talk about some solutions, because some of one-of-a-kind governments around the world, whether or not that be inside the United States of America, the Czech Republic, or Europe, were making a few very massive leaps and boundaries in terms of price range in their respective nations. You can see that the Czech central bank simply approved a suggestion to don't forget investing in Bitcoin as a reserve asset. Now, the Czech Republic is not the handiest one that is doing this right now. You have more than one US states doing this. You've got America president speaking approximately doing this for everything of the United States Treasury. You have the EU, this is now joining this communication, and countless other nations like El Salvador and so many others in South America that are now additionally doing this, amongst South Korea, Japan, and lots of others. Yes, I think Bitcoin, cryptocurrency as a whole, is going to turn out to be a more massive part of all of these governments and the way that they manipulate their budget in the destiny. And you might be wondering, what does this must do with the Fed? Well, definitely placed, cryptocurrency does have the ability to completely automate everything that the Fed does and offer a higher opportunity for all and sundry who is part of something Us.A we are speak me about. Mainly, I think the USA of America wishes to abolish the Fed because it's the reserve of the complete international, but despite the fact that all the different vital banks becoming a member in on this would make things a lot easier as well. Now, talking of that, we haven't seen the recognition and the speak around crypto within the mainstream simply hope to warmth up and heat up a few more. We can see Michael Saylor was simply featured at the Forbes mag at the front cowl, and they're claiming he's the Bitcoin alchemist. Okay, so that is pretty cool stuff. Bitcoiners pretty satisfied about this, but Bitcoiners aren't satisfied about something else. I'm going to display you men in just a second. But any other cool thing for XRP in particular is the advertising. They're certainly making an investment very heavily into advertising right now. In my previous video, I confirmed you men a section in the Wall Street Journal. They had a whole web page devoted to them. And now we are also seeing right here that they may be doing TV advertising as nicely. It's nearly like an Apple fascia advertising campaign. They're simply announcing they're making bills, show up the world over, and they display all in their companions for the duration of this section as nicely. You can see Santana, MoneyGram, SCB, and such a lot of others. And so this is sincerely cool to peer. I'm actually happy to see that Ripple is shaking things up in relation to advertising, and they are getting out there. Now, let's talk about a number of the terrible information, some of the matters that the Bitcoin maxis aren't happy with. However, something that the XRP network is certainly notably satisfied with right now. This is simply growing the feud between the two groups. I'm going to play this clip right here, after which I'm going to reveal you men something simply to sort of tell you what is happening inside the European Central Bank. Okay, so that is the European Central Bank president. She had a few matters to mention. I'm going to play the clip. I'll come up with, guys, some context. Listen up. Should or ought to encompass. I suppose there is a view around the desk of the Governing Council and most probable the overall council as well, that reserves ought to be liquid, that reserves have to be steady, that they have to be safe, that they ought to now not be plagued by means of the suspicion of cash laundering or other criminal sports. And as a end result, I'm confident that reserves will now not enter. Sorry that Bitcoins will no longer input the reserves of any of the relevant banks of the General Council. I had an excellent communique with my colleague from the Czech Republic, and I departed to him to make whatever announcement he desires to make. But I am confident that he is satisfied, as all of us are, of the necessity to have liquid, stable, and secure reserves. Quite humorous how she just mentions the Czech Republic here. Number one, due to the fact they are approving a proposal right now to do not forget. Yeah, she's pronouncing inside the same post proper right here that I simply spoke with the Czech Republic, and properly, they may be agreeing with us. I imply, I don't assume. This is something that the human beings are agreeing with. And that is my factor. There are centralized entities in vicinity like the European Central Bank who do not need Bitcoin to be a element because they realize Bitcoin opens up the floodgates for all different cryptocurrencies. And even as additionally, they comprehend that this can be a hassle for them. They want to keep control over the machine. They want to be the centralized entity calling the shots due to the fact that permits them to hold the monopoly that they've making the ones rich people richer and sort of screwing over all of us else with all in their money printing, just systematically oppressing the complete financial system each time they see fit. And who cares if a bare $1 billion is going lacking out of the trillions that they print, right? Well, something genuinely interesting that you may see right here. You can see Brad Garlinghouse turned into honestly attending this sort of meetings here with this very equal ECB, the European Central Bank president. You can see her right here, Brad Garlinghouse, right here inside the equal body. And this is what a number of humans are actually speak me approximately.